you work. You work as a cook, you work as a teacher, you work as an artist, you work as a civil servant, you work as a politician, you work as a technocrat, you work as a scientist, you work as a teacher. Women work in the household, which is not considered work. But I think today that assertion is something which is not acceptable to many people. Women's work in the household, women's work in the kitchen, women's work bearing children, raising them, and doing other work. It is increasingly now being recognized as work. And that work is a part of a material world in which those women live, men and women live. Conceptually, it cannot be now considered non-work.
Also means that together, when you're channelizing energies, a certain amount of inherent order is being brought about. There is a chain. And therefore within also, you talked about whether do I take discipline as something external or internal. I think for me it's also internal. It is not something that is thrust upon a person, but even within yourself, there is an inherent sense of discipline. The question is how you own it.
And which is why all human action is engineered, sometimes foolishly, in the notion of the perennial life. Because for me, it was always trying to seek the immaterial in the material. Because in a way, a process like this, which actually I had about 13 months from the day I was literally invited to the day we opened doors to the public.
It has changed. Now, earlier no one used to go to school, especially people, young boys or girls living in villages, they never had schools. Now, even government is trying to make sure that every young one will go to school, they'll have a free education. When they'll be literate, the progress of state will be there, definitely.
Discipline
my feeling, I think
is inherent in what is. Let's look.
There is sometimes, there are some optional papers, elective papers as you call them. So there sometimes the girl students, they want to go more for HR, that's human relation management. While the boys may like to go for marketing, finance. It is one things are now not very common in big cities. Yes, in small towns, villages, you see that attitude very much prevalent.
I think people brought up basically become quite hollow from inside because of too much material things they have to do. 7 o'clock starting early morning till 11 o'clock at night. So now they are thinking that it's time to settle down, something to shift to something more, just to satisfy their souls.
Analysis and the results which is coming out of it, and then reshaping the future path. So that's what I have been adopting. And yes, always there is an inner feeling that there is some factors beyond your control. So when a failure comes, you will not get a shock. You will face it boldly and then go towards the next step.
Live with concern,
So I'm not sure I am necessarily in favor of clear-cut boundaries of material and a non-material. All my life I have not lived in a non-material world. The only time non-materiality will matter when I was sucking my mother's milk.
As an artist, I do believe self-realization is most important. As a social animal, it is my responsibility to react to the situations and respond to it. As artists are responsibilities. Even like the responsibility itself is, I believe, you take freedom. You take freedom to create art. There are no rules for freedom in one sense. Rules are made by people, but I think artist means taking maximum freedom. They can make the best art. So the complete freedom of expression of oneself, one's own idea, could be art.
Think that art should not change, I think it's not possible. This applies even to within India also. Suppose folk and tribal artists, I feel that identity still must come from of an artwork or an art tradition must come from that society, but not necessarily from the language of art that one is using. That's my considered view.
Unemployment is the biggest problem. After that, people will start switching over their profession from currently what they are doing because they are not getting. For example, why lots of doctors, engineers, astronauts, they are moving from India to England or Europe. You can find lots of doctors because they are not getting what they are deserving in India.
I think the Andy Warhol painting should be $30 million. I mean, if the Mona Lisa became on the market, what would the price of the Mona Lisa be? $1 billion. But what does that say about the society we live in? That the ultimate value is for individual creative freedom. And the people that think out of the box, that's what's being celebrated with this value system.
Philosophy. But from whatever I understand, really
3-meter cotton cloth to cleanse the gastrointestinal tract up to the stomach. Mostly swallowing like any food. Of course, that requires practice. Initially, all these practices are aimed to control the involuntary action of the body to a voluntary action. The body should be purified before getting into the spiritual path. That's why the Hatha Yoga prescribes this Shat Kriya or the 6 cleansing processes for them.
Police station Mussoorie, and I joined the police in 1990 as sub-inspector of police.
So this has to make you understand. What it has to understand is that a particular perception which is common, which is normal, even though it looks true, it need not be so.
Petticoat Nagaraja, Womanar, Sari Nage, Chiaming, Gate of Prasadam Dagani, Sandalika Nagaraja, Winda Villam Dagani, Nage, Seeing Gate Villam Dagani, Sanda Party to Sandaliki, the Pashavam Nudia, Nagaraja, Nage, Chiamadi Minbo.